y'all, I'm back with another message. So today's message is your friends are not your therapist and other people don't have time for your depression. So today's message is a little different because I had never felt this emotion so strongly until this time in my life, and maybe I did in the past. I didn't have people around me that could identify the signs, and I didn't know, and I got over it quickly too, probably. So because I was never talking about my emotions as much as I have now, it was not identifiable. So usually you just see me as like the upbeat person, and people always ask like, why are you so happy? And or the infamous phrase, she ain't that nice. I heard that before too. Like, do you know me? Okay. So yeah. So simply put, your friends are not your therapists. And what I mean by other people, your friends, classmates, acquaintances, family members, etc. This came to my mind because I started medical school last year, and it was a lot for me, so much so that I could not even find simple joy in the fact that I live on an island. And the scriptures didn't help. Praying didn't help. It felt like nothing. Like it felt like nothing was happening. I even cried during the semesters previously. I felt defeated, and my confidence was like low, low. And I was still in that same mental space. Like it didn't. The prayer, the quoting scriptures, the affirmations, none of that stuff was helping me. So nothing about this place made me happy. I was overwhelmed with managing classes that had so much information that I was not able to perform like I needed to or how I have performed in the past because it's a new place and now you got to learn the new system. You got to learn how to be who you're supposed to be. So I didn't know how to be a medical student. As much as they try to tell you like, you're not ready for this and you don't blah, blah, blah. Like, how do y'all know what I'm not ready for until I get there? So I can see why people would say like, there's no way to prepare for medical school because you really don't know until you get to that place in your life and you actually go through it. Just like, oh, you might not know how to prepare for marriage until you actually in the marriage. You don't know how to be a homeowner or whatever the case is until you actually get there and then you're going through the process. Some stuff you don't know how to do until you actually get there and you're actually doing it. So now I see why nobody can prepare you for what you're supposed to be doing. It's basically a situational thing. Until you get there, then you handle that. But at the most part, don't try to stretch yourself out, trying to get to medical school, whatever the case is. Because when you get there, you'll figure out how you need to adjust and how you can be successful. So, like I mentioned, no one taught me how to be a medical student. I had to learn basically by going through the motions, by trial and error, by studying for a test, thinking that I did the best and thinking that my study tactics were great and they were not. Then you end up failing the class. Then you end up failing the course. And then you got to retake it again. So, yeah, trial and error. But there are so many factors that come into play as a medical student living in the Caribbean or just in another country. You come from a country that you've been in all your life and they have different resources. So I never really considered that you do need to consider the environment. You need to consider like the health. You need to consider like how do you get things, can I go to the store and get something quickly or whatever the case is, because I didn't know some of these factors were even contributing even more to the depression, because now I'm in a new place and I don't have all the things that were efficient for me to live a successful life, and now it's becoming a stressful factor because now I don't have everything that I'm used to having. So it's actually stressing me out and causing more stress because I don't have the things that I need, and now I'm in a new place learning all this new stuff all in one time. Okay, that's depression, all these new things happening. So everyone associates the Caribbean with the beauty and oh, it's beautiful. You got the true blue waters and the sun is glistening and beautiful brown skin and I'm near the water sailing across the ocean or the sea, having a grand time. Everyone thinks that. So we immediately link the Caribbean with vacation and not the fact that I'm going here for school. So the ultimate trick for someone that's doing study abroad is because once you actually live in a place, you adopt that way of their living, and nobody really talks about that. Or I don't know if people talk about, I don't know what they do, because I know when I became this medical student in the Caribbean, it was a mess and I didn't like it. So we live in a place, that it's not our normal way of living, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you should love it. You're in the Caribbean and don't you just love being there and you're living in a place that other people don't live? No, I don't. I don't love it at all because guess what? It's not my normal way of living. So now everyone's like, you should just go watch the ocean. I watched it. I watch it every time I get on this bus and go to school, and I don't care because it doesn't bring me peace. So I had to find the peace in this location because the normal things that brought me peace that I can go do while I lived where I was at in the US, I can't do that here because this is not the same location. This is not even the same country. So my peace that was in United States, where I lived at, my permanent residence, is not in the another country. And now I'm trying to figure out like what brings me joy here, what makes me happy here. Because now I'm a student and I'm in a stressful situation already. So I'm not trying to figure out all this new stuff in this new place. It should be I'm transitioning just going to school, but not really so. You're transitioning going to school. Then you got to figure out yourself in this place. Then you got to figure out how to be successful in this place. Then you got to figure out what really works for you because it is not the same makeup as what it was in the US. Like I came from having a car. I came from being independent. I can drive wherever I want to go, do whatever I want to do. Like I could do all these things and not have to stress about how I'm going to get there. How can I go do this? Or I want to go do this. Like I didn't have all that extra stuff. I can go to the grocery store and get whatever I wanted. If I seen a recipe online, I'm about to make this because I want that. And then you come here and it's like, so y'all don't have all the stuff that I need in the store? Okay, now I'm real mad because I can't cook what I want to cook. And then you have to pay so much money for a taxi or just getting over your transportation costs of being in the Caribbean from getting a flight, which is like $1,200. And that's every 4 months. So, and then you want to get off the island. So just to think, you're spending $1,200 on a flight and you're not even, it's not even vacation. You just get on a plane for 50 million hours. It could be 3 hours. You can live right in Miami. It's going to cost you about $900 just to get over there. So we're spending money on stuff like, no, all my stuff all the things that brought me peace back home were like, I can go to the mall, I can go visit my family. And now I can't see my family but every 4 months. So, you don't see your family. Now you're with new people. You got to learn the people too. So going to my favorite restaurant, now I got to figure out what's my favorite restaurant here. Oh, or I'm about to spend $30 for food. So that's not even what this is about, but this is just what hitting on the fact of being in the Caribbean is not what people think, and it brings more stress than it brings like joy because now you spend all your time trying to figure out how do I live in this country that doesn't have all the things that I'm used to having all the time. So the word or the topic for the day is depression. What is depression? Things that happen too quickly at one time, or it could be a mood disorder or something that can basically alter how your mood is, and that leads to you lacking interest. Or it can be like me, it's a situational depression because I'm in a situation that's not gonna last that long. But yeah, once I get out of this situation, then I can go back to the normal way of living. And this is more so like how COVID was. You're adapting to a new way of living, a new normal. This is really what this is, this whole little transition. Or it could be depression can be defined as like trying to adjust to something, a new way of life so abruptly, or just adjusting to anything new. So I don't know the statistics of this, but I've heard so many stories about those in medical school being depressed and lacking interest. Honestly, that was me. The crazy thing is I didn't know it was me until I went to a physician and started expressing how I felt over the past months about being this new medical student that everybody is so excited about, but I'm not. So yeah, what does depression look like? Because she started saying things that I didn't even think of, and because I didn't label it as depression. So that I think that's where we can get things mixed up too. You don't even know because you don't know the name to it, and you don't know that that's what it is. Like you don't have anyone that has the higher education or whatever the case is around you to identify what is going on in your life until you actually talk about it. You could be talking to somebody and telling them about it, right? Like your friend. But because they don't have the education in it to know that that's what it is, they can't identify that that's what it is, if that makes sense. So you could be talking about something, but people can't help you because they don't even know that there's a name to it. And then if I knew it was a name to it, then I can look it up. And now if I'm looking up, now I can figure out how I can get help. So yeah, what does depression look like? It can be any and everything because people can still operate and be depressed. you can still be doing your same thing and you can be fully depressed. And that's how you know it can be displayed any way, because I'm a pretty upbeat person and I can even tell what was happening to me. And the funny thing is, I was learning about it and still didn't realize, like, wait, that's me. So it could be like a bad mood. You could be pessimistic, sad, crying, difficulty sleeping. Like, I was having difficulty sleeping. I was having a panic attack during an exam. I was having an anxiety during an exam, like major anxiety, because I didn't know what was, I didn't know that if what I studied was sufficient. So I was having a panic attack because now I'm taking this exam and I really do need to get a good grade. So that's where the anxiety was coming from for me. But weight changes, difficulty concentrating, it's a lot of different things. It's actually like more than 100 different things that can, or symptoms or signs that lead to depression. But some of those you can, they're probably listed on healthline.com, WebMD, you can look it up. But I'm just a student telling you my what I went through, because I'm not here to give you medical help because I'm not a physician yet. I'm a medical student, one more time. But yeah, my physician, she even told me, like, anxiety and depression are sisters to one another. So yeah, that they go hand in hand. But yeah, out of that, moving on to the next thing, how many of you right now are in medical school but actually depressed? Or you're in what you actually asked for and realize you're depressed, or you're just living life and depressed. Life can be hard, like, no lie. So yeah, it's normal, but it can be abnormal when it's taking your whole life over. So then that's when you really do need to receive like medical help. But my first semester, or shall I say the first year of medical school, was horrible. You know how people begin with join their heart. This is some other students' testimony because it's not mine. I was not like medical school, oh my gosh, I'm here, let me take 5,000 pictures. I was not on social media like that. I was not taking pictures like that. I was more so trying to figure out, what is this that the Lord put me in that I'm over here trying to figure out, because I don't know what this is. So I was really trying to figure out my life, because I had no idea what was happening in my life at this time, and do I even want to be a doctor? So I was not excited. I had no expectation. Like, I started the year with no expectation of medical school. I didn't even know how to feel about it. I didn't know how to think about it. The only thing that I began with when I started medical school was fear. Fear of, what is this going to be like? Am I going to pass these classes? Everyone says it's so hard. It's like drinking from a fire extinguisher or whatever. I mean, not a fire extinguisher, drinking from the water hose, y'all will figure it out. I can't even put a name to it right now. But yeah, I was absent of emotion. Why? Because they instill this fear in you, that it's so hard, and we have that narrative already. So that's how my semester had begun, because I had 4 classes and I really didn't know what to think. I didn't know. I was just on the edge and was really about to do some damage. So I didn't know how to feel about anything. And that's a side note that I want to say, that that is one thing I will say, is when you begin medical school, begin with expectation. Or when you begin anything, a job, a whatever, a career, a relationship, begin with expectation and keep expecting and speak victory. Because that is one way the enemy tries to trip us up, is by not speaking anything at all. We're not speaking faith. We're not speaking, he wants you to speak all the negative things. And even he don't want you to say nothing at all, because you're scared to say something, because you're operating in fear. And God wants us to operate in faith. Faith without works is dead. And how can you have faith if you don't have hope? So we got to have hope and we got to have faith at the same time. So you have to speak those things that are not as though they were. And now it really makes sense in the scripture about how you need to speak those things that are not as though they were. This is where the affirmations come in. The word is already telling you what to do. The word is telling you, speak those things that are not as though they were. That's like an affirmation. I'm beautiful. I'm successful. I'm a child of God. I'm loved by God. I have favor with God and men. But I can say that in this instance, them affirmations was not working, because Your girl was really like depressed. So you can be speaking and sometimes you don't really feel it. But you got to keep speaking, because what did God do? He spoke. He spoke and it was so. He spoke and it became, like the words. We use words. So yeah, back to what I was saying. That was just a side note, because I didn't start with expectation, and that's probably where I got in trouble with the whole fact of I was already defeated before I even started, because I didn't have the right expectation and the right focus and the right hope and the right faith about being in medical school. So yeah, I'm learning tons and tons of information each day, which is what my first semester, that's how it started. I was in 4 classes and somehow I still had to be a human. Like, stop playing with me. This schedule was absolutely ridiculous. We were in school from 9 to 6, literally every day. And because I had no idea how to manage my time or life or emotions, I was all over the place and I could not get settled at all. I was having an anxiety attacks. I started blanking on my exams. My world was straight up like going down. Life was lifing, like they say, like for real. I mean, issues that I never had to deal with, because I've been pulled away from all of my resources to focus on this degree that I've been planning for years, only to get there and be sad and depressed because I don't know how to manage it. So I gained weight. I gained 20 pounds. Like, oh, okay. Because now I'm in my house because I don't know what to do here. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm a cook. I love to cook. So then all of a sudden I just started cooking everything, and then I started eating everything. And then here I am, even with school. So because I was at school so much, there was nothing else to do, and I didn't know what I should do. And I didn't know, oh, let me go study, because I didn't want to study at the time they were telling me to study, which was like in this break, because we had just came out of a program called ARP and we were at home. So my normal way of studying was not to be at this school studying. I was in the mode of I can study at home, because that's where I had came from. I was at home studying. So now it's like I'm just thrown into being in school all day long, and now you need to find out how to study at school. And it's like, no. So by the time I got home, I still wasn't productive, because now I'm about to get in the shower. Now I'm about to eat dinner. It was a lot going on. So I could not get settled at all. And being here was actually sad and depressing. So like I said, I gained the weight. I failed classes. I had to retake courses. I couldn't. And then I didn't know this was a thing, but not being able to eat the food that you want, so then it makes you sad. For example, I cannot go to Olive Garden because Olive Garden's not here. You can't go to McDonald's. McDonald's not here. You can't go to Burger King. Burger King not here. Like, all these things that you would never think of, it was definitely a problem here for me. But I'm sorry, y'all, with this lighting. Yeah, we're just ignore that. But yeah, I was basically pulled away from all the resources to help me to focus on this degree. And I was like, Lord, I know you didn't bring me this far, like bring me here to fail. Then when I had to drop a class, it made it even worse, like even more stressful. I had no emotion. I was numb for 2022, because that meant another semester was added on. That meant more time on this island. I basically buried my emotions from that semester. So yeah. And with that, another side note is don't be so committed to your plans, because baby girl, honey, whatever you want to say, I thought I would have 1 semester left, and we are in year 2023. So 2022, I started in EBS 1, and because I had to break down those classes going into EBS, after EBS 1, I had to retake some courses from the first semester. I'm still now I'm going into my 2nd semester. But yes, yeah, so it's okay to slow down and do what works for you and not what other people are doing, because at the end of the day, you're the physician. You're the one that has to get this degree. You're the one that has to take do the exams. So slow down and go at your own pace, which is what I like about my school. I can take off courses and add on courses, and I can do what works for me, versus I'm rushing through taking 4 and 5 classes and not being successful at all. And I've learned that it's better to do more with less than having more and doing less. So do what works for you, and don't really be concerned about what other people are doing, which what I was having a hard time with, because I was really committed to getting up out of here and being in my last semester at this time, but God switched that around, changed my plans. So that's that. But yeah. And not only rushing, if you rushing through stuff, you're going to be slowed down one way or another, because I realized as I went throughout my medical school journey, God had to remind me that, remember when you rushed before and then you end up having to retake classes because you didn't grasp it and get the foundation right? So in my undergrad, I had to retake classes because I was rushing then, because I was trying to do a dual major and I was trying to hurry up and get to medical school and hurry up and take all the prereqs, but not realizing that even though you're rushing through, you need to have good grades still, and you still need to have a good foundation, because that a bad foundation is not really going to help you in medical school. But having a good foundation and understanding why things are happening, that's going to help you be a better student, and it's going to help you in your classes to where you're not stressed out because you've learned the foundation of things prior to. So rushing is only going to slow you down. So you might as well take your time. And that's that. But yeah, I had this new schedule, and it was like, how am I supposed to study with this schedule? When do I eat? When do I have time to think and process my emotions? Because for real, I did not have time to do any of that. No time to process my emotions, no time to just sit down and like breathe. I had so much anxiety that it was even hard to hear from God. I didn't even know what I was hearing. I had to like fast a couple of times because I was like, what? Do I even hear the Lord? Because I'm actually full on filled with anxiety to where I can't even hear God right now. I can't hear if he's saying hello. Like, I can't hear the Lord right now. But like, how do you go from not sitting all day to instantly that's all you're doing with the heavy course load? You know? So I hated everything about the schedule. I hated having to wake up for the bus and being trapped at school. Going from being independent to dependent was the worst. Also, the fact that I was performing, I was studying to the best of my ability, but performing at the lowest. So it didn't reflect in my grades like what I was like, how I felt that I was studying. So I had to retake anatomy, which was a mess, and that's all day long. So also me trying to move in faith and be like, I'm gonna stay in this course because walking by faith, the just shall live by faith. So I'm staying in this class not knowing like, yeah, you still about to fail. So you might want to get out, but I didn't want to do that. So I ended up failing it, and now, have that on my transcript from that situation. But so learn from my mistakes. If you below whatever they say the requirements are, get out of the class. Don't even try to fake it out, because at this point it's about numbers. And I know as a believer, we can get caught up in like, by faith, and we using faith and all of this, but at the end of the day, sometimes in medical school it's about numbers. So let's not even, I'm like, God wants us to be successful, but then we have to be wise at the same time. So yeah, it was really, all of that was really a confidence killer and sucked the life out of me to where I was feeling real forsaken. You say you never leave me nor forsake me, but I was feeling like, where is the Lord? Nowhere to be found. I didn't feel blessed. I didn't feel any of that. All right, so I cannot adjust for the life of me to this new way of living that I was so not amped up about. Prior to the first semester of medical school, I was in a program called ARP, and that's what I mentioned about like me. In that program, I was online, and all of a sudden going from online, transitioning to me in a school all day long, it just disrupted my whole routine. Mind you, we were coming out of COVID and all of other stuff, so the routine was just off. Being in medical school, you have to find a new rhythm, and that was just the purpose of it. I need to find a new way to be this student under these new circumstances of being at school all day when I was online being a student. So in that same semester, it was the first semester and then it was the second one in the summer. That's when I found out, went to the physician, and I was telling her like about how my semester was going, and she was like, oh, okay. Well, she's not a physician, she was a nurse practitioner. And I was telling her about how the semester is going, how I'm like, I've never had anxiety like this before, and how my eating habits and, like the sleep and everything. And she was like, this sounds like depression. And I was like, what? Depression? And she was like, yeah, that's exactly what that sounds like. So now that I know what it is, once I got back in my second semester, I found myself trying to explain to everyone, well, not everyone, but the people that I was around most of the time, I was trying to explain to them that, like I went to the doctor and she told me that I had depression. once I really found out what was going on. So I told them, like, she told me I had depression. And the crazy thing is, like, what I noticed at that point, I'm telling them and I'm voicing to them that I have depression, to the people that I confide in. Once the second semester happened in medical school, once I came back and all that good stuff, I'm voicing to them and saying what I know, that what I'm going through, that I am depressed. I'm voicing with the actual word. I'm like, yeah, y'all, I'm depressed. And, I inserted at a time where I felt like they would hear me out. Let me tell y'all what they did. So I'm telling them, all right, cool. I'm depressed, whatever the case is. And I started, when I told them that, they were like, oh, on a lighter note, and they switched subjects and started talking to each other. So it was only two of us. It was three of us all together walking, but the other person, they heard me. They listened to what I said, right, as we're walking, and said, on a lighter note, let's switch from a heavy subject to a light subject. And they started talking to each other about something else. And in that moment, I felt alone. I was like, see, this is how people be acting out and people don't know. This is how people start committing suicide and doing all this crazy stuff, because the fact that I voiced it to you and you still ignored what I said, versus those that don't have a name for it and they're voicing it or they're acting out in a certain way and people still miss it. So now I can see, like, this is how people who are experiencing mental health issues are overlooked, because here I am, a medical student, and I'm telling other people that are medical students, and we didn't heard the same thing. And not only that, it was a medical person with me, and one that's actually worked in the field with me, and I'm telling them that I'm depressed. And not one soul acknowledged what I was saying. They continued on with their conversation. So in that moment, I felt alone. I was like, oh, okay, that's exactly that's what we're doing. So they let me talk or whatever the case is, but after that night, I didn't even say nothing else to them. I didn't even bring it up no more. It was nothing. I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm boxed in, like I'm fighting this battle alone, because y'all ain't said not one word. So I learned that in that moment, that's why I said this message, that your friends can't help you with your depression. They're not your therapist. They can't help you, because some of them not even concerned about you, honestly. I learned that everyone, you can be telling them straight up, like I was saying, straight to their face. I'm telling you I'm depressed, and they will straight be like, well, girl, what you depressed about? Or they might not even acknowledge what you said and move on. Or they'll be like, girl, keep it pushing. Or they'll tell you to get over it. And it's like, if I get over it, I would just get over it, but I can't. Or they'll be like, what are you depressed for? Or depending on the location of the water, they'll be like, just relax. Because that's what people were telling me. Girl, go look at that water. And I'm like, I'm looking at it. What is it going to do? What is it going to do? Is it going to, like, what is it supposed to do? So yeah. In that moment, I felt alone. And then that's when this whole little message came about. Your friends are not your therapist. So when you don't have an outlet, I'm going to move on from that. The next part is, when you don't have an outlet, you begin spilling out in other places with people who don't even care. Because when you, like, in that instance, when they didn't hear me in that part, then you begin talking to people when things are going so bad in your life about the things that are going on. You begin talking to other people just randomly. So you want to talk about what's going so bad that you can't help it. Now you got to tell everybody about how you feel. So as much as someone cares about you, I learned this too, as much as someone cares about you or love you, they're actually not qualified to help you. For example, someone that gives their life to manage other people's emotions, or like a doctor, they give their life to help you with your diseases and your sicknesses. So because somebody can love you and care for you so much, they're not qualified. That lets me know that I need a therapist that can identify what's happening with me, because my friends can't help me. So I began using a school counselor. That's how I started. That didn't help. That didn't suffice. I feel like they weren't all the way qualified or empathetic. She was just like, oh, nothing is wrong with you. Okay, well, if I'm telling you something's wrong with me, ma'am, then why are you telling me there isn't? So yeah, then I went to talk to the student advisor, and she told me, do I really see myself doing this? And some people drop out. And I'm like, not a person who doesn't even have a medical degree telling me to drop out. Like, that is all that all that we resort to? Wow. So then I immediately deemed her as the enemy because, man, why are you talking me out of what I should be in, especially after all of this hard work? And why is the climate of school this way? If you see people dropping out, failing classes, taking leave of absences, or taking less courses, that alone should be a red flag. Why y'all not helping? So, yeah, I stopped going to them. I found out that there was really no one to talk about it unless you knew they were depressed too and they wanted to talk about it. So your friends can't manage your emotions. Your family can't manage your emotions. Your bestie, they can't manage your emotions. The church can't manage your emotions. You need extra tools to manage your life emotions. And ultimately, you need someone who is skilled in it, because if I need help right now, I'm not about to pray. Well, I might pray. Yep, I might pray. But then again, the prayer is probably not going to take away the emotion. Okay? So I'm not going to go and grab a self-help book. I need help right now, so I need tools. After a while, and then even with that too, after a while, when you, if you're talking to your friends so much about something, they gonna get tired of you. So that's why you need somebody that is a therapist that's actually working to listen to other people. So with me, last year, being a Christian, I know it's the only solution. You know how us as Christians, the only solution is girl, pray about it, because that's what everybody kept saying. And I'm like, prayer is not working. Prayer is not the only thing that's going to help me. I can pray, but it's not doing nothing at this point, at this moment right now. It don't feel like it's doing anything. I'm just being real, because it didn't feel like nothing was happening. I'm praying. I'm waking up like, Lord, help, help. I was saying that every day, like, Lord, help me. Nothing was happening. Didn't feel not one thing. So, prayer is not a magical thing. It's not going to take away everything. And I say that because I was quoting scriptures like, Lord, you said, cast all my anxieties on you because I care, because you care for me. And yeah, you said, be anxious for nothing, do everything by prayer, petition, thanksgiving, present my request to you. And the peace that transcends all understanding, guard my heart and my mind towards Christ Jesus. And no, it still ain't do nothing for me. I'm just saying, you literally have to work at it. You need someone that can help you work at your life. So don't get me wrong now, because Jesus saves for real. And he can renew your mind. But we need other tools, and we need people that are more knowledgeable than we are in certain areas of our life. So, yeah. And another thing that I learned last year, sorry y'all, this is so long, but I noticed how when you could tell your friends, they would instantly change the subject. And it may not be because they don't care, but because they don't know how to help you. So I know somebody had told me choosing a mate, if your mate can't help you with your depression, then that's a red flag. And the funny thing is, TD Jakes had came on that same week. And because I asked God the question, I was like, is that true? Like, what? How somebody gonna help me with something that's a mental problem? And literally he gave me an answer. So when you choose a mate, if you're thinking of choosing a mate, this is just stuff that God was giving me, in choosing a mate. Because what if I was told what I said, and that's a lie, that's a red flag. It's not, everybody can't handle your depression or with things that you are going through or battling emotionally. And he literally said, before he said that, I was thinking how can somebody help me with something that's internal? How can you help me with something that's going on in my mind? Because it starts with me. I got to change my mind. Like it says, let this mind be which was also in Christ Jesus. He can do exceedingly abundantly above all I can ask or think, according to the power that works in me. These are scriptures that came to my mind. I'm like, how can y'all help me with something internally? So when I heard that from that person, I'm like, what? No. So I learned that same week, because we tend to put the responsibility on other people to help us be or whatever. And it's no, he was talking about how that's too heavy. You can't put the responsibility of somebody helping you with your depression or what's going on in your mind. It's too heavy for them. So the only thing they can do is they can be there for you while you're fighting the battle, but they can't help you with the depression. And that goes for, like I said, your friends can't help you. Because that's funny now that I think about it. This just came to my mind right now. But they can't help you with something that you're battling. They ain't on the inside fighting this. It's a mental thing that is going on. So I guess that's where cast down every imagination, every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, taking it captive and bringing to obedience of Christ. I quoted that scripture so many times, but still, it was still an issue. But yeah, and my mom in that time, she wanted to help me so bad, because it's like you're trying to explain to people like what you're going through, but because they're not going through it, they're trying to find solutions. Like, she was really trying to help me find solutions. She was like, oh, we'll just pray about, she's trying to find the best way to encourage me in that time, and it was not happening. I was more so frustrated because I'm trying to explain something that nobody is understanding. So yeah. And like, another point that I was thinking of at that time, while I was like taking exams and having a panic attack in the middle of an exam, that let me know then, like, I'm praying. I started praying like, Lord, your word says, cast all my anxieties on you because you care for me, and I'm more than a conqueror through Jesus Christ who loves me. So I'm quoting all these things, but it still wasn't helping that panic attack. Like, that anxiety attack was going on. So yeah, I think that's, and even so, like, I want to add another thing is that all the things I had planned, like planning the mental strength, or building your mental strength, and building your emotional intelligence, all the things that I learned over the years of like speaking affirmations, speaking all these things, I couldn't even put it into play at this time. I didn't even know how to put it into play. I didn't even know how to like, okay, I'm writing affirmations. Like, it was just not working. It was not helping at the time that it was supposed to be helping. Like, I really was sitting there. It felt as if it vanished overnight. Like, the person I was before that can easily like pick herself up, I could not pick myself up. It was not happening. So yeah, even last year I had planned a trip, and even when I went on that trip and it was so exciting to go on that trip, I came back and it was still the same emotion. Like, all of a sudden, because I'm back in that same situation. So I'm back to like trying to manage my emotions and trying to get happy and trying to be excited. So you guys may be asking now, after I said all that, what did I do? What did I do that finally at some point made me get over this? So I can tell you that I'm just saying from my own experience, but after I had went through this situation, I immediately became an advocate for therapy, counselors, etc. in this season of my life. And I can't say if it's helped me fully, because I had a new therapist or whatever, but I'm in it. And it's nice to have someone that is supposed to listen to you versus someone that occasionally listens and has no solutions. Okay, at least the therapist got solutions for me. So what I had to do was get a therapist, and the problem was because I'm not in my primary location. Like, why does it matter that I'm away for school? Why y'all can't help me? Not me being educating myself to help the people, but the people not helping me. I can't get the medical that I need because it's not the right medical here, to give me quality and efficient medical help. Health, whatever you want to call it, quality medicine. I can't get that here. So, or a quality doctor, or, all that good stuff. So I see why people be going crazy, because they can't get the medical help that they need. But yeah, so I couldn't receive a good quality therapist until I began to pay for it. So then, like I said, I went to the school counselor, went to a school advisor, none of that stuff was helping it. So then I found out about BetterHelp. So now I have a therapist with that. Is it helping? Not sure, because it's only been 2 months. So I'll let y'all know about that later. Now, secondly, I had to build the excitement by planning for something that I found joy in doing to get the right emotion, which was like planning a trip, planning a day, something that used to make me happy, or I feel like is going to make me happy at this time to get my emotion back. And honestly, this semester I'm feeling way better because, like I said, it was situational. So me going back home was like a break and got my focus together and allowed me to that space to remember who I was and what I was becoming and the goals that I set for myself like 15 years ago. So at that time I was ready to give up medicine, and I didn't care what people thought. Medicine was about to be a done deal. I was like, Lord, I know you didn't bring me to something that's about to give me an anxiety. And now what was once horrible before, I can see clearly now. I have a better perspective, and I know who I am, and I know whose I am, and I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. and I can better cope, and I have a smile on my face, and a real smile, not a fake smile. So what else even helped me was I started writing in a journal, and I wrote down like how I want to show up this year, what and the things that happened last year that didn't work, or giving like a full overview of the year. And then I looked back over some of my goals that I made, like, girl, you really made it. You really made it to what you said, but now we got to manage it. You have to learn how to live on the new level that you're on. And it's just not gonna like happen quickly. Like, you have to endure. And God had to keep telling me, like, you gotta go through it. You gotta go this way. It's not just gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna be 2 seconds. You really have to go through it. And so that's really where I was at in life. I had to go through it. I have to endure the process of being a medical student and really learn this new way of life. Because your girl was looking for a new career with the quickness. I didn't care no more. I didn't want to be a medical student. So yeah, so it just gave me the time to relax and break, and I was able to catch up with my family. And even then, God had to teach me like to stop complaining, because I'm standing in an opportunity that many people get, that not many people can get. And I had to keep reiterating that this is only temporary, but it can be hard. That's why you need to do what works for you and use this space to your advantage. And like I said, what I like about my school is they allow you to take on classes, put on classes. So now I can't be doing too much. I know I need to do what works for me. And ultimately, I was able to get back to a decent place. So like I said, my soul was refreshed and I was renewed. But in conclusion, girl, get a therapist. Boy, get a therapist. Young woman, young man, adult woman, adult man, whatever you want to call it. Get a therapist. And I know it can be pricey, it can be expensive, and as a medical student, you need a budget, and because they really don't help us out like that, or whatever walk of life you're in, your insurance may cover it depending on what kind you have, and it can be free. You never know. So definitely get a therapist. Also, stop talking to a lot of people. Use discernment, because some just want to tell you business. The moment you get off the phone, they want to disrupt what God may be doing in your life. So you really may be doing something that may be doing more harm than good, because some people may be intimidated by your position in life, and they may be really secret enemies. So you can be spilling your heart out, and they like, yeah, I hope you fail. Like, they really are plotting. And so you got to be careful about who you talk to, because some people can be in competition too. Like, they competing with you, and you're like, yeah, let me get off this phone. Let me stop talking to you, because you just competing on the other end. So yeah, definitely be mindful of the people that you're talking to, because they just, some people want to run their mouth, and it takes time to know people, and you have to know who you're pouring into. And basically history will tell you how they are. So some people, you can just look back and be like, you a gossiper. I need to stop talking to you. But sometimes you can be so hurt that it makes you pour out to anybody. So, and sometimes you really don't care if they go back and tell somebody that you want them to go back and tell. If it's a person that you mad at or whatever, you want them to go back and tell somebody. So sometimes you don't, it can be, things can be so tough that it doesn't matter. But at the end of this, I want to say that you need people who know the Lord around you, because you get a different type of appetite. You get like the words of God, you get encouragement, you get things that build up your spirit and your soul. And it actually, it includes God in it, because how would I be here if God didn't allow me to come here? So you need those people around you that know the Lord and they have a prayer life, because they can speak life into you, versus those people that don't even believe the same God as you. And you like, not saying all your friends got to be the same, because sometimes you're the light to your friends, but you do need people that believe like you believe. Okay, next is you need people that can motivate you, encourage you, that are anointed to do that, and those that hear from God, because you're bound to do, because sometimes you can do something crazy and God can like, hey, somebody that's around you that knows the Lord, God can give them a dream or something, and he can like get you on track by that. So yes, you need people that have a relationship with the Lord. Secondly is you do need friends, because you do need to talk about a matter, and you do need to be able to talk things out. And I noticed that with me, I know I had to keep talking about something like a whole year, 2 years. Like, I had to get that thing out of my system. And you need those people that you can talk to about something about 800 times, because yeah, you need those people, because those ruminating thoughts that you have that you just can't get out, and sometimes you need somebody to listen to you. So but make sure that it's a reliable source. Like I said, make sure they're reliable, because some people are not. They just want to gossip and talk about what you just said. But yes, so I said all that to say is your friends are not your therapist. I'm sorry that this lasted a good old minute, but I feel like this needs to be heard, because some of us are depending on people or talking to people and wonder why we're not getting results, because these people can't help you, because they don't know how to help you. And it doesn't mean that they don't love you. It doesn't mean that they don't care about you. But some people don't care about you. Some people don't love you. So you just have to have discernment and know who to talk to, who not to talk to. But yes, try to get a therapist. Try to get a resource that helps you. But yeah, you need solutions, not somebody, not just a listening ear. So that's why I said we need therapy for real. You need therapy, and you need therapy just to find you, just to figure out what's going on the inside. So yes, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope to get feedback from other students, because I know I'm not the only one above here tripping on this island now. I know I'm not. I know I'm not. But yes, thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.